Hello, gender and subject choice. Right, learning focus is what is gender identity? What explanations can we offer for gender differences in subject choice? How do schools reinforce subject choice and gender identity? And as ever, sociological perspectives so that we can analyse and evaluate their keywords and terms. Write them down, stick them in your glossary, make sure you know what they are. Ooh, you might get tested on them, you never know. Right, subject choice. National curriculum tried to, basically reduce the freedom of choice. More meritocratic, girls can do the same subjects as boys and vice versa. However, what we found was, we haven't done anything, sociologists have done it for us. What they found is that when choice is available, there are definitely gender roots that exist, particularly when we get to the age of 16, when we make really good choices about our education. So the national curriculum options, Staples and Whiteley, found that genders choose different subjects, even when it's within the same subject. So for instance, like design, technology, things like that, girls would tend to go for the more gender-orientated subjects of, say, food, and boys would go for things such as graphics and resistance materials. As I said, AS and A-level gives you a lot more choice and it's a lot more noticeable. Boys tended to go for subjects such as maths and sciences, and girls tend to go for more subjects such as English, foreign languages, and dare I say it, sociology. It's even more exaggerated when it comes to vocational, because vocational is seen as very career orientated and careers based. The choices made are very much even more based on gender roots. For instance, only 1 in 100 of construction apprentices are female. Sociologists want to look at whether or not there's a way that we can explain subject choices, and they've come up with 4 key things that they want to look at. First one is early socialization, and this basically shapes child's gender. So if we think about sex as something that you're born physically with, the difference is physical. Gender is more of a cultural difference, and it can be changeable. Fiona Norman looked into this in 1988 and believed that in early socialization, things such as the way that you were dressed, encouraged to dress, toys that you played with, the activities that you did, and also the rewards. So boys were rewarded for being very active and being out there and doing very active type of activities, where girls were rewarded for being more passive and for helping in the house and things like that. Norman believes that this helps children shape their gender identity. Byrne believes boys are encouraged to be tough, and they're called names such as sissy, or they're believed to be weak if they don't act in a very boyish, tough way. This is again backed up by Loban and Best, who believe that within books that children read at a very early age, and all read at a very early age, gender roles are very stereotypical. This obviously has a great impact, and Murphy and Elwood believe that this impact helps, but the impact is the subject choice. So this early socialization impacts on your taste, so the types of books you're interested in. So boys tend to read literature on hobbies or activities or sports, and this leads them very much into, say, the sciencey, sporty subjects, where girls tend to read books more about people and society, and this leads them going into subjects such as English literature and things like that. Brown and Ross believes also that there are gender domains exist. By gender domains, we basically mean that these early experiences and adult expectations lead us towards like a domain where it's predominantly boys, predominantly girls. The thing is with this that genders find confidence within their own domain. So for mending a car is very much a boy thing. Our favourite English language teacher of all time, Angela Harrison, was telling me a story today about how her dad was, I'll fix the plugs, I'll change light bulbs and stuff like that, because that's we feel as though that's our job, and the only person who can safely do it is that person, that gender. A study carried out by Murphy highlighted this in terms of school children who were given an open-ended task of just designing boats and cars and stuff like that. And what Murphy found was that boys tended to draw very kind of sporty, elaborate cars and boats, where girls tended to do more practical and more socially acceptable and more family-orientated things. So there's a difference seen there. The images of subjects also have a great impact on the type of subjects that we choose. So Skelton et al. Believe that we are drawn to certain subjects based on what the idea of how appropriate it is, maybe based on our own experiences or the expectations as adults, as we've discussed with Brown and Ross in the gender domains. Anne Coley takes it on and shows us that ICT is seen as a masculine subject, and the main reason for this is that it uses machines, very boyish type of thing, and also the learning style tends to put girls off. It's very individual. There's not a lot of group work taking part in it, and the way it's taught is very descriptive, and there's not a lot of flexibility in it, and that put girls off from doing it. Kelly, 1987, found that science was a very male-dominated subject, and three reasons for that was that teachers tended to be more likely to be male, the textbooks were geared towards the interests of boys, and also the pictures within them showed boys doing sciences and things like that. And also that boys dominate the classroom apparatus. It's their domain. They feel as though the equipment is theirs because it is very much a gender domain subject. Department for Education and Schools in 2007 said that there's less stereotyping in single-sex schools, so what you found is that more girls would be doing, inverted commas, boys subjects, because there wasn't that kind of subject image as such, and they were more able to actually participate in it. Diana Leonard found this in her study in 2006, that girls in all girls schools were more likely to study maths and sciences, which, as we've discovered earlier, were more boy domain subjects at A-levels than girls who went to a mixed-sex school. This also followed through into university and career, so girls who have gone into all-girls schools tended to do these subjects all the way through and even into their careers. One factor that sociologists look into that I think has got a major impact is peer pressure, and this idea that we gain approval or disapproval by people who we go to school with. Alison Dewar found this definitely in her study, where girls who tended to do sport or were really interested in sport in school were called things such as lesbians or butch, really because they weren't fit in the gender domain, gender stereotype of who should be doing sport. Carrie Peacher also backs this up in her study that she carries out a few years later. Interestingly, again, single-sex schools have major differences. So girls who go to single-sex schools are much more likely to choose subjects such as PE and competing sports than if they went to a mixed-gender school. Final thing we're going to look at then, in terms of subject choice, is career opportunities. This has a major impact because the type of career that you want to go into obviously is going to have a major impact on what subjects you choose at A-levels, degree, etc. We have sex-type jobs, okay, so jobs that are seen definitely more female jobs, such as nursing and childcare, and jobs that are seen more as a male-dominated area, which is being a mechanic, a plumber, a builder, or whatever. Because of this, it narrows the parameter for girls. It's argued that girls don't have as much choice in terms of the careers they can go into. 50% of all jobs that women do fall into 4 types of categories. That's clerical, secretarial, personal services such as nursing and midwifery, and domestic jobs such as maybe cleaning. Now, out of those 4 categories, only 1 in 6 men fall within those 4 categories. So there's a much greater choice of sex-type jobs for men as it is for women. So now we've looked at subject choice, we're going to look a little bit now at gender identity and the influence that school has on this. Okay, there's 5 key experiences that have been highlighted, which try to explain why gender identity exists within school. First of all, Bob Connell believes in something called hegemonic masculinity, and this is basically this idea that boys have this dominance of heterosexual masculinity, and anyone who doesn't really kind of fit this heterosexual masculinity are, they're either girls or maybe they're given identities such as gay or something like that. That's really important to understand when we look at the way that boys particularly act around girls, or boys who don't fall within this kind of subcultural norm. Bob Connell believes that boys have a very rich vocabulary of use. Basically, they use really good words or really strong words to try to reinforce their gender identity, as we've already discussed, calling girls butch or lesbians if they do sport, because that's a boy thing, or maybe calling boys gay if they don't play sports. Lees found in a study that girls were called slags if they appeared sexually available, or drags if they didn't. So it's like no kind of middle ground when it comes to the verbal abuse that boys would give to girls. Picha found that this name calling maintains male power, so you could look at it from a feminist perspective about a patriarch and oppression. Lees and Picha found that there's no actual link between actual sexual behaviour and the names you're calling. So it wasn't a case of boys calling other boys gay because they were actually gay. It was just basically down to them not actually falling within this gender norm and gender identity that they thought was the norm. Male peer groups are a lot stronger than girl peer groups, and because you have to show this dominance and this masculinity. As we can see, there's a lot of studies there on different subcultures and things like that, but it comes basically down to the fact that if you don't hit this subcultural norm of being sporty and masculine and heterosexual, then you're not normal. So macho working class lads would have a go at working class lads who worked hard in class, and also for middle class children for working hard, they would be called gay or teacher's pet or swat or something like that. So very negative. Interestingly though, Redman and Mackingall believe that this changes from primary school all the way through to sixth form. So if primary school and secondary school it's all about toughness and how hard you are, but actually when you get to sixth form it's about how intelligent you appear, especially when you go on to university. So it's very interesting to see how that changes. Teachers have a major impact in setting gender identity. So boys are being told off for behaving like girls, being called sissy or for crying, and teachers are reinforcing this gender identity through this. Haywood and Mackingall also found that teachers ignore verbal abuse towards girls, mainly because of this male dominance towards girls. Feminists would see this again as a sign of a patriarchal oppression and rule of men over women. Askew and Ross also found that male teachers were very protective of female colleagues, and this gave out this idea that women actually couldn't cope with troublesome students. So no matter how subtle the protection was, it's an underlying, maybe a subconscious identity being created. Next we're going to look at the male gaze, and this is how men, both male pupils and teachers, view females. Mackingall believes that this male gaze consists of like a surveillance, so boys actually looking at how girls dress, how they act sexually, and they judge them on appearance, and it's very much how they're seen in the eyes of men, and whether or not, again, it's acceptable, and whether they're acting in a girly manner, but also in an overly sexual manner. But obviously don't forget that boys, the way that they act, they're very boastful about their sexual exploits. So what a girl might be classed as a slag for, a boy is praiseful. Lees found this in a study carried out, and that boys were given approval for their sexual exploits, or even boastful sexual exploits, even if they hasn't happened. But the same thing for a girl, talking about that gets a very negative label. Feminists again believe that this is definitely a sign of patriarchy, and that male have power in school at all levels, from the students all the way up through the teachers, in the way that they act, and this is just a sign of wider society's oppression of women. Very whistle stop, very fast. Do apologise about that. That's what you need to do for the class. Do not forget your essays on gender differences in education that were given out last week. I expect to see them. See you all later. Bye bye.